lest we forget. Very important three words which are very important in our day and age right now, and the situation in the world, well, specifically in America with the George Floyd situation, the fact that he's basically been murdered, a black man murdered by a white police officer. And it's a huge story, and I thought about whether or not I should talk about it. It was actually Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One driver from the UK, who inspired me to talk about it, because he called out his Formula One colleagues and said, why aren't you guys talking about this? Why am I the only voice doing this? And he's a black man, and he felt, as many black people around the world right now feel the injustice of this on a personal level, but he was saying to the people, his colleagues, just because it maybe doesn't affect you directly, you should still be calling it out. And that's something that I'd like people to take away from this video, is that even if it doesn't affect you directly, you still need to stand up for things, stand up for what's right, and stand up against the wrong things in the world. In the case of this, it's racism, pure and simple. So that's why I decided to make this video. And I wanted to tell people right at the very beginning that I live in a very unique situation. My race makes up 1/3 of 1% of the population here in Japan, which is a tiny percentage. And I have, because of that, experienced directly racism, things like being turned away from businesses and establishments because of my race, no foreigners here, that kind of thing. You open the door and they say, no, don't come in, go away, sort of thing. And so I have experienced it on that level. I haven't personally experienced it on a physical level, although a friend of mine I know actually had his cheekbone shattered because he was dating a Japanese girl, him being a white American. And so it does happen here in Japan. There is racism. I do live in a small minority here. So hopefully what I talk to you guys today, you feel that and you understand that I'm speaking from a position of experience. So it's a different experience and a different, completely different, narrative. I'm not saying the two are similar in any way, shape or form, but I do have some experience, direct experience of living with racism and being exposed to that. But the thing is that, like I said, they're very different. We're talking about two completely different situations, even though they're rooted in the same sort of bias or racism, not racism, prejudice, that's the word I'm looking for. But what I thought I'd do with this video today was, instead of looking at the current situation, which I'm sure a lot of people out there are doing, is I actually want to look past it, because I think there's a time right now for the voice that says, think about the future, don't think about the present right now, because of course a lot of people are very passionate and angry, and they're doing things right now, but in all honesty, and I hope people don't feel offended by this, but in all honesty, now is not the time when things actually get decided or you actually make much of a difference. The time that you make much of a difference is in a couple of weeks' time, when this is no longer news and people are looking in a different direction. So things that are happening right now are sort of reactionary and the response to the moment. But the actual changes, if you want to change the course of history as a result of the murder of George Floyd, you need to think ahead. You need to think about the next step, not the current step that people are taking. And then what's happening now won't be wasted. And I'm saying that because I've seen throughout my life, I'm 44, I've seen a number of times, small and big, where people are very passionate in the moment about something. And it doesn't take much for the large machine that is our societies to distract us and get us to look the other way, while what we really care about is actually being dismantled. Now, I'm British, and one of the major sort of experiences of that I have is with our health system. In the UK, you don't pay for health directly at the point that you receive it. It's not like you go for an operation, you pay for the operation or things like that. It's part of your taxes. So taxes in the UK absorb, some of your money, and then that money is used to pay for the healthcare system. So it's not necessarily free, but you don't pay for it based on how much you use it. So I myself didn't use it much, but I still paid the same amount of tax, whereas my brother actually used it quite a lot. It still pays the same amount of tax. And that's how the health system works in the UK. But government after government, they underfund it. And what they do is that they cut the funding here, and people get passionate about it, but then they forget about it, and then years later the same government says, oh, look how bad that is, it's crap, it's not working, look how rubbish that is, we should get rid of that. And people forget about what happened 5 years ago, and the fact that it was this government that underfunded it, and that's why it's crap right now. And that's the problem I think with, a lot of issues in society, racism, prejudice, the elite having tons of money and then people living in poverty. It's not just specifically about racism, but that is part of it. And the issue at hand is that people won't carry through. They won't stay with this passion for 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months. You know what I mean? People forget about it, and something else will happen, and everybody will look over here, and only 10% of the people who are involved in the current situation will stay with it and actually see it through. But that's not enough. That's not enough to change things. That's not enough to get things done. And to be honest, politicians the world over right now have gotten really, really good at measuring that and getting it just right, so that the people out there are right on the edge of being dissatisfied, but not enough so that they'll do anything about it. A lot of people will just be like, oh yeah, that's bad, and then go on with the rest of their lives. So if you want to change, real change, if you're a person who wants real change, you're going to have to look A, at the root of the problem, and B, long term. Now, the root of the problem for me is that people are too scared of difference. There's an awful lot of people who try and seek out normal, and then if you're not normal and you're different, then that's wrong and bad. And people are sort of scared of difference, different religions, different races, different genders, different sexualities, different political views, and we've lost this whole understanding that difference isn't a problem. It's okay to be different and have different opinions. If you watch my channel, you'll see me say it 1,000 times that I like people having a difference of opinion. It doesn't bother me. I'm not offended by it. I like it when people say things in the comments down below that are like an opposition of what I'm saying, and I want that. I seek it out, and I think it's a good thing in the world that we hear other people's opinions. And sometimes those opinions will change our opinions, but sometimes they won't, and then you'll have a different opinion from me, and we'll be fine. It doesn't mean we have to be mortal enemies. It doesn't mean that we have to, never speak to each other again. Okay, you think one thing, I think a different thing. That's fine. We have different lives and different experiences, and that's what led us to this point in our lives right now. So, of course, we might have different opinions about things. But right now, it just seems like the world is sort of in a place where difference is scary, difference is wrong. Like I said, it's not necessarily just about difference of race, but difference of religion or belief or politics and things like that. So first we have to challenge that idea that difference is bad, and look for it and encourage it, and people changing and being different is a good thing, so we should seek that out and celebrate the differences amongst us. And then the other thing is that we have to stay the course. Like I said, is that you have to be ready to do something about this in 2, 3, 4 weeks time. Now what they're going to do out there is they're going to appoint something like a racism czar or something like that. So what you guys need to do is be ready for that, and be ready for the moment when they say, oh, there'll be a committee that looks into this, or we're going to form a cross-cultural group that are going to have a look at how the police force work in relation to the different racial groups and things like that. That's all bluff. Forget about that. That's all just smoke and mirrors, and that's not the real situation. Those people and those committees or that czar will do their job for a couple of months, and then there'll be a poster up that says, yay, we succeeded, sort of thing. But that isn't the reality of the situation. The real place that you can make a difference is actually by en masse as a group, caring about things enough to vote in a different way. And it's not just like, oh, you know what, I totally disagree with what happened there, but I like this one thing, so sorry about all that, I'm going to keep voting for this guy or these people. And that's how you're going to change the system, is by voting in elections. So I recommend you guys out there do those two things if you can. One is accept difference and be open to different people, different perspectives, different points of view, and celebrate it and enjoy it, seek it out and find the different opinions out there. And the other one is be long term about your thinking. Don't just let them distract you with the latest news story that will be, oh, okay, let's look at that, there's been a deer loose in a local neighborhood, oh, that's interesting. Don't get distracted. Okay, stay the course, stay focused, lest we forget. We come back to that. And the last thing I'll say is, all the way throughout this video I've been putting pictures up behind me here of victims of mass shootings in America, and the thing is that there's been so many, and there just haven't really been that many changes. Everybody says, oh, we have to change stuff, oh, this is a big deal, but think for yourself. When was the last time you were angry before this? When was the last time you were passionate about something before this? And then it's like, well, why didn't I act on that? You know, what was it that sucked me back into this sort of zombie lifestyle, you know, where I just, you know, go along with it because I'm just right on the limit of being satisfied. And then ask yourself what's going to come along next to derail me from this one, and say, right, okay, okay, let's forget about George Floyd and focus on, you know, earning my next buck, or the stock market's doing fine, so let's focus on that instead of focusing on the real issues at hand. So stay the course, and be ready for when they throw things like, you know, the racism czar at you or something like that. So that's my take on it, and the reason I wanted to do this video, like I said, was I want people to think to the next step rather than where we are right now. Don't just react to what you see around you right now. Be thinking about, okay, what's going to happen next, and how can we be ready for that so that we can actually affect real change in the world. And finally, a thank you to Lewis Hamilton for getting me to think about making this video, because I really wasn't thinking about doing it, and but then I thought, you know what, just because it doesn't affect me directly, you know, it does, because I'm a human, and this is about a humane thing, and it's about all of us together. So so that's why I made this video. Thank you guys for checking it out. I hope you appreciate it. If you do, drop me a comment down below. If you don't, drop me a comment down below, because we appreciate differences of opinion here at the channel. So thank you guys for checking in. Hope you're doing well in the world out there. Hope things are fine for you, and if they're not, hope you're challenging that and trying your best to make a change. For now, time for me to sign off, and thank you guys for checking out the content. But as I do this every single day, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.